What up? I'm Josh Paulson, a full-time game programmer at Defiance Game Studio, and I want to talk about 5 things I wish I knew before I got into the video game industry, but I want to ask you a question before I roll the intro. What is one reason you wouldn't want to work in full-time game dev? I'm hoping that I can actually dispel some myths and fears and concerns that I had before I got started. This probably sounds like a very negative video, but it's actually not at all. So, let's roll the intro. So I had all of these preconceived notions about what it would be like to work in game development, the types of things that I might expect, the types of people that I might meet, the types of things that I could or couldn't measure up to. So what is one reason you wouldn't want to work in full-time game dev? If you're up to it, I'd love to see your comment down below. And then at the end of the video, you can edit it and see whether or not your fear was dispelled. Or I would love to answer it in a future video if you have a concern or you're not certain about something. So let's get started. Number 1, here's the first thing that I wish I knew before I got into the video game industry. Just because I'm not impressed with my work doesn't mean nobody else is. Something that I've realized, and this is perhaps a very personality-ish thing, but I generally don't think that I'm capable of what I actually am. Or to put it in a better way, I assume that other people are all, you know what, this gets into my second point actually, but I assume that everyone else is smarter than me and I'm just not hitting that mark. But it's an invisible mark because especially if you are working alone, in my case I was doing most of my development work alone or working with a few other people or perhaps not working with anyone else who was specialized in the same areas that I was specialized in. I just assumed that that I just wasn't good enough. I had no frame of reference, but that was just my assumption because I was jamming with other indies or I was the only programmer working with them and I would do things fast and they would work and stuff, but I was just like, yeah, but other people, they're just better. I don't know how, but they're just better than I am. And this is, I think, a really important thing. It's just because I'm not impressed with my work doesn't mean that nobody else is. There is an aspect to making sure that I create things that can showcase the abilities that I have and that can demonstrate that. But one of the things that I've just seen as I've worked on different pieces for different people, like creating a level generation tool. I thought it was pretty cool. I worked on a git file locking tool so that when people open scenes in Unity, it would automatically lock them so that other level designers couldn't end up overwriting each other's work because that was causing a lot of chaos and concerns on the team. But I was like honestly, I'm not that happy with some of the code that I wrote for some of those things, but I'm also really happy with some of it. But just because I'm not sure about my work, I'm like, it doesn't mean that everyone else feels that way or that everyone else is having the same thoughts. And so that is the first thing that I wish I knew, that just because I'm not impressed with my work doesn't mean that nobody else is. And here is the second thing that I wish that I knew, and that is that nobody has pixie dust. Nobody has all the answers. And I just assumed, oh, and there's actually an additional piece to this that I want to throw in there. And that is that they're not all smarter than me in every area. I'd sort of had this assumption that there was just this pixie dust, this magic that people in the industry had that I didn't. And that is not the feedback that I have gotten. I've actually, there was a comment on my first vlog video. It was a huge compliment that I'm really like, oh. And that is that somebody who worked with me after I was less than a year in the industry, I was a few months in the industry when I worked with them. They thought that I'd been in the industry for like maybe 10 years or something, like that I was a lot more experienced than in my mind I was, because I just assumed other people are just smarter than me. I have no frame for this, I have no understanding for this, but they just are smarter than me in every area. Now, I really want to make sure that I express that. I know that there are plenty of programmers, probably hundreds, and this is really though based on the same assumptions. I assume that there are hundreds of programmers in the video game industry who could code circles around me. I'm pretty confident saying that. But I don't actually really know that, and I can't say that with like, well, here's the evidence, because I haven't seen that yet, but I just assume, oh, I haven't met those people yet, and it would be crazy when I do. But yeah, nobody has all the answers, and also, I mean, there's just specialists. There are things that I could program better than, there are certain pieces where there might be a programmer who even has far more experience than me, and perhaps they are, for example, an amazing C++ programmer, and then they jump into Unity and they're like, I don't know what to do with C#, or perhaps they need to make a connecting web backend, and it's like I don't know what to do for this piece. And for me, I'm like, oh yeah, I can jump into that and figure that out pretty quickly. And so on the one hand, I could look at it and go, well, they're smarter than me in something that, like, I would love to. I haven't gotten into C++, but I would love to. I guess that I haven't loved to more than continuing and growing the areas that I've been focusing on recently. But just the big thing is nobody has all the answers. Nobody has pixie dust. Game industry people are not magically better, and I haven't so far met any game industry person who thinks that they're magically better either. They've been very humble and sort of the same thought process of like, yeah, I'm not that great. I don't know if this is just a very common thought process in the games industry. I've had the impression that it is, but a level of confidence where it's like, I'm not as amazing as you think I am. So I don't know if everybody walks into the games industry assuming this. I did, and in working with people, I guess one of the great things with collaborating with other people more is that you get a frame of reference, and there is a danger of comparison in that there can be a like, oh no, I'm never going to be good enough, oh no, I'm not hitting this measure, or being like, I should be at this level. But there's also a usefulness in comparison in that if I find that other people are writing code faster and writing code better and it breaks less often, I want to compare my code to theirs because I want to get better at programming. It's not comparing my worth as a person, it's comparing, I guess some people could consider this their worth as a person, but to me I would consider it not to be my worth as a person, but about what can I provide for the team. And I always want to be increasing that. I want to be able to work better and faster, and that's something that I know I can always get better. I can always get faster, whether that's learning new tools or whether that's learning new programming paradigms, or if that's learning better ways of communicating what I'm doing. There's all sorts of different things that I can do to always improve. But nobody in the industry has all the answers. They're not all smarter than me in every area. Let's jump into number 3, and that is that the measure of capability in a job is only this: can you do the job? Because I was like, oh man, I could get this job, but what if I don't know C++? What if I didn't play all of these games that exist? What if I didn't play every single AAA title that has come out in the last 10 years? What if I missed this game? Oh no. And the thing is that the measure of capability in any job is only this: can you do the job? It's not, have you played every other game that is completely unrelated to the title that you're working on? It is not, are you a master of game design in addition to being a good programmer, if you're a programmer? It's not, oh my goodness, are you good at every skill? Well, you know what, we hired you to do art, but you're not good at code. I'm sorry. No, that's the measure of capability in a job is only this: can you do the job? And in an indie studio, you're going to wear more hats. I've got a few of them, and I wear quite a few hats where I work at Defiance, to where, yeah, I think I can talk about some of this. Like I've done coding, and I've also helped with the YouTube content and building out a bit of a YouTube marketing plan, and I've been helping out with looking into like, okay, how could we connect this with streamers? I've been helping out with I'll be helping out with some voiceover work. And so but if I was in a AAA studio, it would be even more specific, where it's okay, I just need to be good at C# and Unity, assuming that I'm working in AAA and C# and Unity. But the measure of capability in a job is only this: can you do the job? I always try to look for bonus sections where I can put myself in there and grow a bit and have more experiences, but ultimately it's not, can I do every job? You know, you could join the games industry as an amazing programmer and not have a clue about game design, and it sounds like that's pretty common, and I'm not saying that as a dig against people, but and there's a point to where it's just like people specialize, and if you're spending that time becoming a better programmer, then that also probably means that you're better than somebody who's also been spending that time studying design. It's not a guarantee, but it's very likely. So I'll say it again, even though I probably said it too many times, and then we'll move on to number 4. So I wish that I knew before I got into the games industry that the measure of capability in a job is only this: can you do the job? So here is number 4 of 5 things I wish I knew before I got into the video game industry. I don't need to know every game. You don't need to know every game. I was like, oh crap, I haven't played this title and this title and this title. I still, don't shoot me, I still haven't played The Last of Us. I've played Uncharted, and now I feel like it's weird because there's even this feeling now of, oh no, I need to defend myself. But if I don't work on a game that has nothing, if I don't work on a game where that knowledge is critical, it doesn't matter. Like, it's always good to learn more titles, to experience more titles, to experience more games, but yeah, I mean, there's even just different things where it's like, you might not have the console for it, or you might not be able to afford it, and it's like, oh no, I haven't played the latest title in this, and I have no money, there's no way I can get it. It's not true. It's interesting to me. I've got a lot of retro experience, and so that's something that, depending on the titles, that's really valuable, because it's like, oh yeah, have you played Streets of Rage? Oh yeah, I've played that. Oh yeah, I've played those beat 'em ups. Oh yeah, I've played some of those arcade games. Oh yeah, I've played. I'm trying to make sure that I don't use any actual real specific examples that could reveal information that I shouldn't reveal. But like, there was a game a little while ago that that was relevant for a project, for some contract work that we were working on. And I was surprised that other people had not played this game. And they had jobs in the industry. Oh my word. How did you not play this game and get in the industry? It's like when people, I don't know if you've ever had, this is maybe a tangent, but, oh my goodness, you haven't watched this 80s movie that I think is amazing and was my childhood? It's like, no, because it actually sucked and you just have nostalgia glasses. Anyway, so, the thing is that you don't need to know every game. Now, it's worth learning different games. It's worth playing different games. It is worth having those experiences. And then it's also really cool when you meet people who worked on those games. Like, you worked on Metroid Prime, that makes me happy. Anyway, dagnabbit, I'm really happy, and I'm losing focus. That is so cool. When I say that, I'm like, hey, you're happy. That's embarrassing. Okay, so, I don't need to know every game, though. You don't need to know every game. It's always worth, of course, having more experiences, and it's not going to hurt you to play more games, but likely, depending on where you work, and especially if there's more contract work coming in and it's more varied, you're probably going to need to play games, maybe even on the job, and they'll pay you to study the game, and that's just a fact of things. You don't need to know every game. Okay, rather than me squealing with the light over more people, let's go. So, fifth thing that I wish I knew before I got into the video game industry. Everyone in the industry thinks game dev is hard. You know what one of the most common phrases about game dev that I heard was? This was from like lead designers, this was from level designers, game dev is hard. And the more experienced that they were, the more likely they were to say game dev is hard. So I guess it's weird to me because it might just be my own mindset and the way that I process things, but I don't think game dev is hard. And that might be because like I've had a lot of hard times in life where I'm like, is game dev as hard as having a sick father for 17 or 20 years? Not really. Is it harder than like some of the trauma that I've walked through with friends? No. Is it as bad as I shared in one of my early videos? Like, is game dev as bad as when I like didn't have regular meals for a year? No. So I guess there's a part of me where I'm like, yeah, game dev isn't that bad. But everyone in the industry thinks game dev is hard. So if you're like, oh no, game dev is hard, that must mean I suck at it. Everyone in the industry is like, game dev is hard. So I guess that some of it is that I also take the perspective in general of it's not hard, it just takes a long time. That's the way that I generally think about challenges, is that I'm like, it's not hard, it just takes a long time. And I'll get faster at it over time, but it's fine. I'll learn, I'll grow. And ideally, I'm always learning techniques to where if I do something right, then I can replicate that and do it right again. I always want to not just gauge my failures, but gauge my successes so that I can replicate success. So, we went through those, and at the beginning I asked, what is one thing that would keep you, or one reason that you would not want to get into full-time game development? And I would be interested to hear, did any of these things that I mentioned, did they address those concerns? If not, like, I would love to hear about them, because maybe I can dispel some myths or encourage you a bit, or be like, yeah, you're not the only one who feels that way. But that's all I've got for today. I don't know what to add to that. Bye!